to today's edition of Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, and this coming Sunday, April 11th, is Holocaust Remembrance Day, a time when we remember the millions of people who were killed by Nazi Germany, starting in the early 1930s and ending in the spring of 1944. And to commemorate that event, we're going to follow in the footsteps of one young Jewish man and see the Holocaust through his eyes. You can imagine this program won't be appropriate for little ones, so let me suggest you get them occupied elsewhere. And you may be tempted to just tune away right now. This is a heavy subject, but let me encourage you to remember the Apostle Paul's words, to rejoice with those who rejoice and to mourn with those who mourn. Hearing these historical stories will help us to mourn for the lost, and it also ensures that coming generations, my children, yours, will never forget the horrible time that the world experienced back then. Our president, Jim Daly, is joining me in the studio today, and Jim, the sanctity of human life is woven throughout the story we're about to hear, and it's a core value here for us at Focus on the Family.
You know, John, it sure is, and I hope our listeners know that here at Focus on the Family, we remain committed to this core value of life. Opposing abortion and euthanasia in all its forms, and that's something, during World War II, that was something the Nazis were doing. Eugenics, abortion, it was experimentation at a level that was horrific.
Hard to even fathom.
Hard to fathom, and so today, as we do take a look at this tragedy, that's what inspires us to do this, is for us not to forget what happened there and to not repeat it.
Well, I agree, Jim, and I'm really looking forward to what our guest will be sharing. As I indicated, he'll be telling his own story, and I should say his name is David Faber. He was speaking to a group of middle and high school students at Calvary Marietta Christian School near San Diego, California. Here now is David Faber on today's Focus on the Family.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, faculty, guests. My name is David Faber. I am a Holocaust survivor. I was born in Poland. I was the youngest of 8 children. I had 6 sisters, 2 brothers, my parents, uncles and aunts, cousins and grandparents, 82 people in my family. I'm the only one that survived. I am considered one of the luckiest survivors around the world. Holocaust survivors have no pictures to recall what their families looked like. It's almost impossible to have. Let me go through the pictures that I do have. This was Rachel. The next picture over here, Shanna, my youngest sister, with her friend. They were murdered. A picture of my mother. She was 54 years old when she was murdered by the Nazis. And the next picture over here, my brother. My brother, in a Polish uniform, stationing for 2 years in the Polish army. About maybe another week to go, the 2 years were almost up, his training. World War II broke out. And he was forced to fight against the Germans. The Germans were very powerful. It didn't take long the Germans to take over Poland. Took him less than 3 days. They wiped out the entire Polish army. They took a few hundred prisoners. My brother was one of the lucky ones taken prisoner of war. How did we know? When my brother was put on a truck, on a German truck, taken prisoner of war, he took a piece of paper and he wrote down on that piece of paper, "I am alive, I have survived. Anyone will find that piece of paper. My address is so-and-so. Notify my family that I have survived. I am being taken prisoner of war. An elderly lady picked it up and brought it to our home. On the 3rd floor, she rang the bell. My mother opens up the door. I was standing next to my mother. She hands over that piece of that note from my brother to my mother. She looks at me and she looks at my mother, and she yells out in the Polish language, "If I would have known you Jews, I would have never brought it." We lived in a city called Katowice. This particular city used to be Germany before World War I. When World War I broke out, Germany fighting with the Polish took that city. But still, the people were from German families. People spoke German. When World War II broke out, the Germans didn't have to fight their way into that city. On the opposite, large orchestras were playing as the Germans were marched in. They were welcomed. Our brothers are here. But for us, it was a bitter situation, a very bitter situation. There were signs on every street, on every store, on every food store, on every bank in the German language. Juden Eintritt verboten. Jews are forbidden to enter. My parents, before the war started, weeks before the war started, they knew what to expect. They got special people to build a special door, mahogany door. In the back of the mahogany door, steel brackets, steel wall. They tried to break through to kill us. They tried very, very hard with dynamite, whatever they could. They had a hard time. Somehow, after a while, they gave up. They were shooting, throwing grenades with machine guns through the window. We stayed way in the back not to get killed. After a few days, my parents realized we cannot survive in that city. We ran out of food. We were lucky they didn't shut off the water. We left everything behind. And we took a train to another city. The reason we went to that city, my mother's brother, my uncle, with his wife and children, lived in that city, hoping when we get there, they'll give us some shelter, a place where to lay our heads down, at least from the beginning, until we find something. When we came there, they were very, very polite. They made us comfortable. Everything, a place to sleep, with food, everything we needed. But after a few days, my parents realized we cannot stay there forever. People like their privacy. So after a few days, early in the morning, my parents, 5 sisters, went out early in the morning to see if they could get a job, earn some money. We were practically penniless. Except for me. I asked my mother, how about for me to go out, get a job, earn some money, help out the family? I asked my mother says, sweetheart, who is going to give you a job? Who is going to give you money? Why don't you stay with your uncle and aunt, get to know your cousins, and we'll be back later. So they left. Around noontime came, my uncle and aunt preparing for lunch, a long, long table, while we sitting and talking to each other and eating. The door was hit open on the opposite side. Very powerful 2 Nazis